Hey YouTube, in today's deck profile video I'm going to be going over my favorite Bermuda Triangle deck of all time, the Reindeer based deck. So Velvet Voice Reindeer has always been my favorite Bermuda Triangle deck. It's the only one that I've played on and off throughout the years of Vanguard. The other ones, I kind of put them together, play them while Bermuda Triangle is popular, then I kind of just put them into storage. And then you don't really see them until the next year when Bermuda Triangle gets cards again. But Reindeer is the one that I actually keep. Like that, this is the one that I keep with my main decks. If I had to consider a main Bermuda Triangle deck, of course, if I was going to go to a tournament, I probably wouldn't play this clan. Or if I was forced to, I'd probably recommend playing Prisms. If I actually want to win or have a chance of winning. But that doesn't stop me from favoring the Reindeer deck because I feel like this one, it's the first one I put together from way back, and it's chance based, so it's very exciting to play against and control the deck because it is grade 3 based in terms of you want to drive check grade 3s to get the effects, the majority of the effects to go off occur, similar to Die Kaiser in Dimension Police, for those who are familiar with that deck. But it's a very fun deck. It's probably one of the most enjoyable decks to play. It's relatively competitive with the other Bermuda Triangle decks. It's definitely not terrible. I would say it's a lot better than Coral overall in terms of just putting the vanilla deck together and everything works. The Coral deck, you kind of are forced to tech in other cards that are traditionally not really Coral support cards to help that deck out. So it's definitely better than Coral. It's more in line with like Riviere, at least now with the new support. But I would say that it's still not quite as good as Prisms. Maybe it's similar on the same level of the Ret duos at this point, unless they are able to pull off the piece combo. But even then, this deck is still pretty hilarious to play as, and it's kind of annoying to play against, but it's really fun still. So let's go over to the deck. So it didn't change too much from a year ago. You do have your 4 Peaceful Voice Reindeer. So this is the card that came out last year as the 11K base upgrade to Velvet Voice Reindeer, which I am using the sleeves. That's the original art. And then, of course, the other grade 3 is the Velvet Voice Reindeer. So what I'm surprised is I really wish they would have made a new Velvet Voice Reindeer, like a Break Ride or something, or like a GB1 or GB2 Reindeer that was an 11K base, because honestly, like, the only thing that hurts the deck is the 10K base on Velvet Voice Reindeer. Now, of course, they do have a grade 1 that fixes that and turns it into a permanent 11K, but when you stride, I believe you do lose that, or maybe no. Well, if you've got Soifa behind her, you do get the 11K. But without Soifa, she's a 10K, so it's not all that great, but it's live as soon as you ride it, so you want to build the deck accordingly. So that's the grade 3 lineup. It's the Reindeer stuff. I really wish they had a new grade 3 Reindeer. For the grade 2s, 4 Inspect Sisters Roble. So she is if you have a Vanguard with Reindeer, when she's in the trigger zone, she gains +1 grade, so she becomes a grade 3 in the trigger zone, and all the Vanguards are Reindeer, so she's basically a grade 3 during your turn when you drive check her. So that helps a lot. So that's why we run 4 of her, because you want to maximize your grade 3s. So you want 8 grade 3s minimum, and then you want your grade 2 that's also grade 3, and you have a grade 1 in here that's also a grade 3. Her other effect is an on-hit effect, a rear guard effect, where when it hits the Vanguard, the opponent's Vanguard, you Soul Blast 1, chuck her to the bottom of the deck and draw 2 cards. And that's assuming you have a Vanguard with Reindeer. So it's definitely one of the main key Reindeer support cards. Next we have 3 Shyness Laguna Lapple. So I still think she's pretty good in here. She, just like Roble, she came out last year. Reindeer support card, when you check a grade 3, Soul Blast 1, and you can call something from your hand to open R. It has to be open R. and you give it 2k. So it's pretty good at extending your combos with Reindeer and this card, because this card, the idea is this card hits and then it goes back and then there's an open R for this. So this is usually always your, depending on how things go, it's still usually going to be your last attacker in the turn, in the battle phase. So I mean, I could drop it to 2, but I'm not sure on the other next cards I have what to replace. Next we have a new card. So Happy Ears, Mel Oval. So she, at first I thought she was gonna be like a 4 of, but then I realized that she can't really extend your attacks. She is one of the main cards that will bounce up. So if she's on the field, you always swing first with her. Because when you check drive 3, you bounce her. When she's bounced up, you choose 2 of your other units, and that includes you could choose the Vanguard, and you give it 3k power. So she's really good because she can power up the remaining stuff, and on top of that, you can call, like, if she combos well with the original Reindeer's effect. So like when she checks drive 3 or grade 3. You can bounce something, which is her. So you bounce her, then you call something down, and then her effect goes, and then it can power up that unit plus some other unit, usually the other rear guard that hasn't attacked yet. So she is pretty good. I may bump her up to 3. I'm not sure exactly how to mess up the lineup because this card is still pretty good because it does bounce stuff up during the stride turn. Or actually, no, it doesn't bounce stuff up. It calls things back down and powers things up. So you have a lot of ways of, what I noticed is you have a lot of ways of bouncing things back up to the hand, but then you have a hard time, like with this deck in the current format, without this, you have a hard time calling stuff back down because the new stride unit doesn't call things down. It only bounces something up. And she does, but usually you're not dependent on her effect to win the match because she's a 10k Vanguard, and she doesn't really generate much pressure with twin drives. So that's why we do need to run this card. So, but Mel Oval is a good new card that they got. And then the last grade 2 is 2 Girls Rock Rio. So why am I choosing her over Amelia? Is the main reason is because she's not GB1 restricted. So on those turns where you have to ride into grade 3 first, especially if you're having to ride your 10k Velvet Voice, you can swing with Rio with whatever's behind her first, and then swing with her and then potentially bounce her up immediately without having to worry about GB1 issues. So that's why we run Rio. She also does refill the soul for Lapla. And there's another grade 1 in here that does also use Soul Blast. And on top of that, the Stride unit uses Counterblast and Soul Blast as part of the cost. So that's the other reason why I prefer Rio over Amelia. So next for grade 1s, for Mermaid Isle Ellie. So she's the original Sentinel. She was my leftover Sentinel from way back. So I always used to use this with Ranger back in the day. Otherwise, this was usually with Pacifica. But that's standard Sentinels. They can protect rear guards, they can protect anything. You could also potentially try Quintet Wall, but I probably don't recommend it because I do have quite a bit of draw power in this build. Next, 4 Dash Sisters Rattle. So this is another really key card to the deck that you need to run 4 of. In addition to the grade 2, both of these together, which I believe is a Legion picture. Both of these together are your grade 3 non-grade 3s. So they're grade 3 when they're in the trigger zone on drive check. So in fact, it's worth noting they're actually grade 3s when they're damage checked as well. That's something that people forget. Not that it really matters too much right now, but who knows in the future if some other defensive type of cards are added to the game, this thing, you know, like trigger damage checking might improve the playability of these cards or the value of these cards over time. Just something to keep in mind. So basically, this one is more reliable than Roble. Roble has to hit the opponent's Vanguard to be able to Soul Blast, tuck her back, and then draw 2 cards, whereas Rattle just needs to get a grade 3 on the drive check, and you have to have Vanguard Reindeer, and then you just draw, you send her to the bottom, draw to replace her, and then you unflip 1. So again, she's also your unflipper in the deck, so that's why you don't need to run the unflip Perfect Guard. You can if you want, there's nothing against doing that. It's just I don't have that in this deck right now, but it doesn't matter. Like, you could run this and that together. Next, for Piping Hot Suifa. So Suifa is another 4 of, in my opinion, minimum 3, I would say, or maybe minimum 2, but she's pretty much a key card. She is basically the Melum. I refer to her as the Melum of the deck because she is your grade 1 that can swing, potentially swing as 11 to the opponent's Vanguard if you pull off her effects. So what's the good thing about her is if you're on Velvet Voice, you put her behind Reindeer to make Reindeer a permanent 11k. If not, if you're on Peaceful Voice, which is more ideal, I would think, you can put Suifa in the rearguard column in the back row. So when you bounce the front rearguard up, she can move to the front, and then because usually her effect will activate when that effect's also activating, because it's all based off of checking drive 3. So when you check a drive 3 and she's in the back row on rearguard circle, at the end of battle, and the nice thing about it is it activates the red effect to hold till the end of the battle phase. Then you move her to the front, you stand her, move her to the front, and then actually you move her to the front and then stand her, and then she gains 4,000 power, so she can swing 11. So she's a very, very good card for the deck. Definitely a 3 minimum, I would say. But I definitely recommend running 4. Then the last 2 cards are really up to you. You could run Stride Fodder, or you could run whatever tech card you think can make the deck have that extra abilities. So in my case, I chose Prism Image Clear. She's a pretty old school card as well. She's a Prism card, of course. When she's bounced, Soul Blast 1, choose another one of your Bermuda Triangles, and it can be anything. So it's basically Bermuda Triangle unit, not a rearguard, and you get a 4k power. So she can turn a 7k into an 11k. She can, do a lot of interesting things. She can make Girls Rock Rio, which is only an 8k, turn into a 12. Lots of different things. She can turn your Velvet Voice into 14, so a 7 Suifa behind her, or some 7k behind her, can make it swing 21. I mean, that's the reason why I chose to run this. So that's basically the grade 1 lineup. For the trigger lineup, it's 12 critical, because I have enough draw power, I feel, with the rearguard effects and the extra drive checks, that 12 critical is perfect in here, because when you see how the stride unit works, you will also probably agree that 12 critical is the way to go with this deck. 10k Vanguard, you want to keep pace with your opponents. You just want to crit kill them as fast as possible. So it's basically why we go 12 and 4, because they're heals. And the starter is Colorful Smiling Frate, or Freight. She didn't change. She's a carryover from last year, so probably still arguably one of the better starters. You could also run Koro from Prisms, but I still think this is probably more ideal. For a stride lineup, of course, it's 4 Song of Gracious Reindeer. So this is probably my favorite stride unit that came out in the set. So Reindeer finally has her glorious or gracious stride form. So, and it's a very interesting stride unit. It's hilarious. Like, you can combo this off more than once during the battle phase. So the way it works is when you check a grade 3 on your drive check, and you have Reindeer in the heart, of course you will, in this deck, you Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1, flip one of her up, so you Persona flip her, then you choose one of your rear guards, bounce it to your hand. This unit gets 3k power plus 1 drive check. So these can actually queue up. It's insane. So you have this. Let's just say you have some random field like, I don't know, this. Let's say you just have like a field like this. Or whatever. And then some random other grade 2. So you have a field like this. These are all face down. So the cool thing about it is, if you never get a grade 3, she just goes back over there, so you can stride. You still have 3 copies of her, so it's not a big deal. So that's the only downside, though. The downside is it can potentially be a vanilla stride unit that doesn't do anything if you don't check a grade 3, because it's all dependent on checking a grade 3. And that's probably the biggest weakness of the deck, because all the rear guards in the deck, except for this one, are dependent on checking a grade 3. There are some few other ones, like the starter, for instance, who only needs a Reindeer Vanguard to do the skill. But for the most part, a lot of the effects are dependent on checking a grade 3. So that's the reason why you have to run 8 grade 3s and 4 of each of these. They're very, very important for the deck to function optimally. So usually what I do, if it's like this, you'll swing like this. You'll swing these 2 first. Because the grade 3 essentially can also function as a stand trigger. So what would be more ideal, if you want to go for ideal setup, and that's why I'm running 3 of her instead of just 2 of her. And now you understand why Lapla is more important than this and Rio to extend your combos. But basically, or unless you have the starter, then you don't really need it. But anyway, so let's just go over how it works. So let's say you swing like this, and then they do whatever. Then you can swing like this. Then you check a grade 3. So let's say you get a grade 3. Then what you do, you counterblast 1, you soul blast 1, you flip up one of these, then you bounce something. So in this case, you'll bounce this, and then her effect will go off. You choose 2 of your units, they get 3k power. So let's say you give both of these two 3k power. Okay. Then she gets an extra drive check. So that was the first drive check. Then the second drive check is something, whatever. It doesn't matter. Then the third one is whatever. You know, is a 2 or whatever. So now, that's your third drive check, but you have 1 more. Then you check a grade 3. So this is a grade 3 in trigger zone. So your 4th drive check, you check grade 3. Now you can do her skill again. So you counterblast 1, soul blast 1, bounce something else. You bounce this, or whatever. You just clean up the column, I guess. Now you can use, well, this is the end of the battle. This is already queued up, by the way. So then she gets another drive check. So you get a 5th drive check. Let's say you check another grade 3. This. So now you have another grade 3. So now you can do her skill the final time. So you can counterblast 1, soul blast 1, flip the last one up, and get another drive check. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 drive checks. So then you check something. So critical trigger, whatever. So now, whatever they're doing, they're probably like cons and guarding or something. So you put all your heal and your crit or like on this thing, and you've already improved these both by 6 to the column because you bounced that 1 card. Now you can do this skill. Now, the only thing to keep in mind... Oh, and actually, did we return this? Oh, actually, I forgot to mention that you probably could have also used this to unflip. But it depends. Like, if you need to unflip damage, you could activate this to send her back, draw a card, and unflip 1. Or if you didn't... Let's say you had 4 damage. You're at 4 damage or 5 damage when you're doing this. Then you can use this thing, or proceed to do this thing. Then this goes... Choose up to 1 of your rear guards, return to the hand, choose a 2. So now you can, well, it depends. Like in this scenario, I probably wouldn't do that, but it's up to you. It depends on if the opponent has more shield in their hand or whatever, if you want to extend your attacks. Because then you can extend your attacks, and then swing this, and then swing the other thing to a rear guard or something. So, or swing to the Vanguard and swing to the Vanguard. But that shows you how this card is actually really good. So, hope you guys enjoyed it. Well, whoops, I forgot to go over the rest of it. So that's Song Gracious Reindeer. It's a really cool card. It's really fun. The remainder is just 4 Olivia, 1 Elprina, and 1 Amoris, because if you already have Rio and other stuff on the field when you stride, you might as well stride and not have to use that Soul Blast. So you can use this if you don't have these available anymore. Or you could do this, call Rio and stuff down, and then bounce them up on main phase and get those effects. One Cho-Cho, Lillinel, you're on hit, and then just G-Guardians. So just some pretty good G-Guardians. So that's basically it. Hope you guys enjoyed the deck profile. Let me know what you guys think of Bermuda Triangle. You think they're going to be competitive in the current meta? And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Thanks.